This happened during Halloween of 2023. I'm 25 now, but at the time, I was 22 years old. I worked as a community outreach worker, which meant long days filled with planning events, managing crowds, and keeping kids entertained. That Halloween, our center hosted a massive festival. Parents brought their kids for competitive games, costume contests, trivia challenges where candy was the prize, and even a kids versus parents dodgeball match. It was fun, don't get me wrong. But by the time everything wrapped up, I was completely drained. Community work takes a lot out of you, especially when you're responsible for keeping dozens of families happy and safe. I went home, kicked off my shoes, and fully intended to pass out early. That didn't last long. About an hour later, around 6-something in the evening, my phone rang. It was my little sister. I'll call her Savannah. She was 15 at the time, and my nephew, Jackson, was 11. Savannah asked if I could take them trick-or-treating. Neither our parents nor Jackson's parents felt like doing it. As usual, it fell on me to be the cool big brother. I wasn't in the mood at all, but I couldn't bring myself to say no. Halloween only comes once a year, and kids remember things like this. So I threw on a hoodie, grabbed my keys, and drove to my parents' house. Savannah was still finishing her costume when I arrived. She was dressed as Raven from Teen Titans, complete with a hooded cloak and pale white makeup that gave her that eerie, ghost-like look. Jackson was already ready, bouncing around in his Sub-Zero costume from Mortal Kombat, proudly showing off the blue mask. Once Savannah was done, we piled into the car. I drove them to a busy neighborhood where people really went all out. Houses were decorated, streets were filled with kids and parents, and laughter was everywhere. For the first hour, everything was perfect. One older man even handed Savannah and Jackson hot dogs and sodas instead of candy. He told us he grilled every Halloween because he preferred giving kids something with protein. I remember laughing and thinking the world needed more people like him. Eventually, though, the night started winding down. The streets became quieter as families headed home. The last house gave out candy, and we began the 10-minute walk back to the car. That's when I noticed someone across the street. They stood in the yard of a house with no porch lights on. No decorations. No activity. Just darkness. The person was dressed entirely in black, hooded cloak, dark clothing, and something covering their face. I couldn't tell if they were a man or a woman. They weren't moving. They were watching us. I slowed my pace and quietly told Savannah and Jackson to stay close. "There's someone over there," I said. "Look, but don't stare." Jackson chuckled, thinking it was someone trying to scare people. Savannah didn't laugh. She knew I carried a firearm in my backpack, a Glock. She also knew I wouldn't say something like that unless I meant it. As we kept walking, I glanced back. The figure was still there. Then I heard boots. Heavy boots hitting concrete behind us. I turned around, and my stomach dropped. It was the same person, but now I could see them clearly. They wore a tactical vest, black boots, black pants tucked in tight, and a full spandex mask covering their face completely. This wasn't a costume. This was gear. I leaned down and whispered, "Listen carefully. Don't stop walking. Don't look back. That person is following us." Jackson stiffened. Savannah went silent. We walked faster. The footsteps stayed behind us, perfectly paced. When we reached the car, they were still coming. I didn't think, I reacted. I pulled out my Glock and pointed it at them. "Why are you following us?" I demanded. They froze. Slowly, the person raised their hands and removed the mask. It was a woman, maybe in her 30s. She stared at me blankly, not answering. I repeated the question. Her voice was flat. Robotic. "I'm an undercover cop. There was a reported break-in. I was checking that house. When you looked at me suspiciously, I assumed you were involved. Lower that weapon or I can arrest you." None of it made sense. Why stand facing away from the house? Why wear a cloak? Why follow us instead of calling for backup? But I had kids with me. I lowered the gun. Her eyes changed. Cold. Irritated. If you didn't have that gun, she said with a slow smile, this night would have ended a hell of a lot different. That's when 4 more figures emerged from between the houses. All in tactical gear. I shouted for Savannah and Jackson to get in the car. They didn't hesitate. I backed up, got in, and drove off. In the mirror, she stood there smiling. The others didn't. They looked empty. A few days later, I got a text from an unknown number. No message. Just a photo. My car. In my apartment parking lot. The police took a report, but without a direct threat, nothing happened. I installed cameras. Went to therapy. And to this day, I wonder. What would have happened if I wasn't armed? Story 2, The Man at the Resort. This happened when I was 12. My family stayed at a small resort about an hour from home. 10 cabins, a lodge, a lake, and woods surrounding everything. They hosted a Halloween celebration with games, candy, and a haunted hayride. During the day, it felt peaceful. At night, the woods turned pitch black. I met a kid named Ryan. We stuck together all evening. The hayride was fun at first. Actors jumping out, torches lighting the trail. Halfway through, I saw him. A man standing just outside the torchlight. No costume. Black jacket. Jeans. Baseball cap pulled low. Hands in his pockets. Watching. I saw him again later near the trees. Still watching. Later, Ryan and I walked into the woods just a little way. That's when we heard footsteps. Heavy ones. A man stepped into the light. You boys like candy? He asked, holding out a Reese's cup. I saw you on the hayride earlier. That's when I knew. We ran. He chased us. We barely made it back. Police never found him. To this day, I wonder what would have happened if we hadn't run. Story 3, Roger's Halloween. My name is Roger. Halloween night 3 years ago changed how I see quiet neighborhoods forever. I lived alone while my girlfriend was out of town. I handed out candy until the streets emptied. Around 9:30, someone knocked. When I opened the door, there was no one there. Just my porch light flickering. Then another knock. From the side of the house. And that's when I realized. Someone was circling my home. But that story deserves its own telling.